Derrick Henry. Patrick Mahomes, we want a trip to the Super Bowl, and you're standing in our way. Ladies and gentlemen, divisional playoff round has concluded, and similar to Wild Card Weekend, we were given no shortage of good games. We had 4 games this weekend, 4 Wild Card winners taking on 4 first-round bye teams. Some upsets, some comebacks, and even a blowout. We're going to go over all 4 of these games as the conference championship is now set up and it is down to the final 4. And my Tennessee Titans are still alive and still kicking, and they are certainly on a mission. We'll go over all 4 of these games in depth like we always do on this divisional playoff round review. And let's get started. Vikings 49ers. This game was played in San Francisco. San Francisco was the number 1 seed coming into the playoffs. They had a first-round bye, and they will have home field throughout the playoffs. They will be hosting the Green Bay Packers, who won their game as well in the NFC Championship. We will get to that game later. But we're going to go over this game first. The Minnesota Vikings were the 6th seed in the NFC, and they were coming off of a shocking upset and a great game over the New Orleans Saints, who they stunned in the first round. Now, when this game was getting ready to go, it started off very even, but the 49ers wasted no time getting the ball down the field and scoring. Cook was, now this makes me nervous, Cook was completely neutralized. He had just 9 carries for 18 yards in this game. So the San Francisco 49ers completely shut down the Minnesota run game, and that is something that they looked forward, that is something that Minnesota looks for to excel in their games a lot of the time, and it was completely shut down. And once Dalvin Cook was shut down, we didn't really see much else. So like I said, San Francisco got out to that 7-0 lead, and the one and pretty much only retaliation of the Minnesota Vikings was the next drive where Stephon Diggs caught a catch that was, I wouldn't say it was a Randy Moss-like catch, but it was a catch that, I forgot who was it? I don't know who was guarding him, but Sanders, I don't know off the top of my head who was guarding him. Regardless, he was able to catch that and run his way to the end zone. It was tied at 7. After that, the 49ers would never look back. Like I said, this was not a bad game for Kirk Cousins per se. He was 21 for 29 with 172 yards and just 1 interception. Same thing for Jimmy Garoppolo. Again, they were utilizing their run game very heavy, and that is something that really propelled the 49ers to this win. More so, or not as much, but to an extent just like their defense. Jimmy Garoppolo was 11 for 19 with 131 yards and a touchdown. He did have 1 interception. The player of the game was Telvin Coleman, and that was the run game for the San Francisco 49ers. Telvin Coleman had a great game. He had 105 yards and 2 touchdowns. The San Francisco defense was locking down Dalvin Cook. That is how you get to the Minnesota Vikings. Not only that, they were locking down Dalvin Cook, and Stephon Diggs only had 2 receptions, and Adam Thielen, I don't believe, really did anything in this game. So the Minnesota Vikings were completely shut down, and George Kittle was also a huge factor. Or not a huge factor, but he was also a factor in this game, and he is a tight end that is very, very hard to stop. So when it was all said and done, the San Francisco 49ers, 27-10, they dominate the Minnesota Vikings. They will now stay right where they are as Aaron Rodgers, as Stephen A. Smith likes to call him, a bad, bad man, will come into town with this with this Packer team that looked very good yesterday. Aaron Jones had some plays. Devontae Adams had a fantastic game for the Green Bay Packers. And they're going to look to see if they can get one past this San Francisco defense and punch their ticket to the Super Bowl and head to Miami. San Francisco wins, the Minnesota Vikings are eliminated, and San Francisco will host next week in the NFC Championship game. Maybe the upset of the week, maybe the upset of the decade, maybe the upset of the century. Whether you talk about the Patriots and Eagles in the Super Bowl, or you talk about the comeback, maybe the greatest comeback in NFL history, which was Tom Brady and the Patriots in the Super Bowl 2 years ago against the Atlanta Falcons. This game was a complete shock to most. Pretty much no one gave my team and gave the Titans a chance to beat the Baltimore Ravens. And, going into this game, I thought we had a chance, but I didn't like our odds. Especially in Baltimore, everything Lamar Jackson has done this year, I hoped it wasn't going to be a blowout. I thought it was going to be a closer game than I thought, but it was actually the complete opposite. If you would have said that the Titans were going to beat the Baltimore Ravens in their first game in the playoffs, 28-12, you would have called me crazy. Ryan Tannehill was just there in this game, but he didn't make mistakes, and that's what's important. He was 7 for 14 with 88 yards and 2 touchdowns. And one of the best playoff performers, and he's on just a dominant run, no pun intended, right now. Derrick Henry is just unbelievable, and he has been our top performer in the playoffs so far this year. Derrick Henry had 195 yards in this damn game against these Baltimore Ravens. The Titans, now the first score of the game was a very interesting one. It was the Titans going down the field, and it was a ball that was thrown to Jonnu Smith in the very corner of the end zone. Now, they were debating whether or not Jonnu Smith was actually inbounds. And when it came down to it, the Titans took the lead off of Jonnu Smith's left ass cheek. And that was his left ass cheek hitting the ground and calling it a touchdown. So it was 7-0 Titans at that point. The Titans were able to get the ball back, and they did something that I completely did not expect whatsoever. Khalif Raymond, who is a rookie who has been a little bit more prominent for the Titans toward the end of the year, but he hadn't really done anything too much. He's known for his speed. Ryan Tannehill threw a bullet pass about 30 to 40 yards to Khalif Raymond right into the end zone, and you were not expecting that. We did not expect, Tannehill to do something like that, and it was just a bullet. It was about 30 yards or so, and boom, all of a sudden, it's 14-zip Titans in this game, and this is something special. Titans weren't able to muster up pretty much anything else in the first half, but unlike that, they were neutralizing Baltimore Ravens. Now, when it's all said and done, Lamar Jackson still had a phenomenal game. He had 365 yards and 143 yards rushing, but he was pressured. We were pressuring Lamar Jackson, and that's exactly what we needed to do. He wasn't really running. I know he had a lot of yards, but it didn't seem like he was really as big of a factor as the stat sheet says. If you watch the game, you would probably agree with me. So he didn't really seem like he was the factor that he's been. And the Ravens certainly now another thing is that the Ravens, I felt like, were getting in their own head. Lamar was getting frustrated. Their receivers were dropping footballs. Their run game was really non-existent. Mark Ingram stepped out of the game to ice his calf up again. He came back in. He was a non-factor in the game. Gus Edwards had some plays, but nothing really. The Ravens' run game was shut down. Lamar Jackson was not as dominant as we've been seeing him. The Ravens' defense was good, but it wasn't amazing. Derrick Henry was able to do what he did. He was silenced very, very early in this game. But anyway, it's 14-6 Titans at half, and the Titans were able to hold Baltimore again, and all of a sudden they're marching. This was, now if I'm correct, this was after the Titans hit Lamar and got a fumble. Maybe I was wrong. All of a sudden, Marcus Mariota's on the field. Well, what's Marcus Mariota doing on the field? So the Baltimore Ravens look at this and they say, well, if Marcus Mariota's on the field on 3rd and goal, they damn sure are doing a trick play and involving Marcus Mariota. But I didn't expect this coming. I don't think anybody did. Derrick Henry does a little bit of everything, and it was just crazy to see him do his thing. So they hike the ball back. Derrick Henry is now, I guess you could say, the quarterback on the field. Does a little quick toss to Corey Davis in the end zone. Boom. Touchdown Titans. And the crowd is silenced at this point. They have no answer for the Titans and their momentum. It's 21-6 Titans at this point, and they're looking very good and in the driver's seat. Again, Ravens are silenced again. This may have been the fumble on this drive. I don't remember off the top of my head. The Titans are back at the goal line. Tannehill runs it right in. Boom. 28-6 Titans at this point. The Baltimore Ravens are getting annihilated on their home field in their first playoff game. No answer whatsoever. That was pretty much all she wrote. The Ravens were able to get a touchdown very easy at the end of the game, and they made it 28-12. They were going to try to go for a 2-point conversion. That was denied. And the Titans' defense, secondary, just played completely phenomenal this game. Their run defense was good. Again, you knew you weren't going to shut down Lamar Jackson, but you had to force him to throw. Lamar Jackson, I believe, threw 57 passes in this game, and that is the difference. The problem now is that the Titans are going to go to Kansas City, and they're going to take on the Kansas City Chiefs. The difference is that not only can Mahomes run, he's a very damn good thrower, and this Kansas City Chiefs team has a lot of weapons. 28-12, the Titans stun the world and shock them all. They punch their ticket, go back on the road to AFC Championship weekend in a very hard place to play. And that leads me to my next game. This may be similar to Andrew Luck. This was a comeback-like game. And Mahomes, this was the game, and I believe I said it. And, what was funny is I commented on YouTube. I had said that, nobody's, I said Kansas City 30-13. And not only that, I said, this is what I said. There was 30-13, and when it was 21-zip Houston, I was getting a bunch of shit on YouTube. And the funniest part about it was Kansas City got 51 points. So I'm just going to leave that there. This game, now, this was one of the worst first quarters in NFL history. I don't know if you could design a quarter that was worse for any team. Everything that could possibly go wrong for the Kansas City Chiefs in this game absolutely happened. It was 21-zip Houston at the end of the first half. Houston scored early with a bullet to Kenny Stills to put Houston on the board, 7-0. Then Kansas City 3-and-out, going to punt, blocked it, picks it right up. Right after you blink, boom, 14-0 on the block punt return. And then all of a sudden, they're kicking it off. And what do you think happens? The Kansas City Chiefs muff the kickoff return, and the Houston Texans pick it up. Houston Texans use a couple plays. Deshaun Watson drives it in. It's 21-zip Houston at the end of the first. And all that this first quarter was Kansas City dropping passes. Tyreek Hill got injured. Houston's defense was playing hard, and absolutely nothing could come back. They weren't getting much going early, and then Houston was able to get another field goal. It was 24-zip. At the absolute worst in this game is 24-zip. And just want to make nod also, Deshaun Watson did finish with 388 yards and 2 touchdowns. DeAndre Hopkins also had a good game, 9 receptions, 118 yards. And this was a monster game for Mahomes, who began the comeback. They caught fire late first half, and the second half was dominated. Patrick Mahomes had 321 yards and 5 touchdowns. It was a big day for Travis Kelce, who's been a big performer all year long. He had 10 receptions, 134 yards, and 3 touchdowns. When it was all said and done, they chipped and chipped and chipped, and the Kansas City Chiefs ended up dominating this game. They took the lead. They traded blows. It was 28-24 at halftime. I think it was 28-24 Kansas City at halftime, and then the second half, the Kansas City Chiefs just took over full control. And they had to put some pressure on Watson, and Kansas City put up 51 points in this game. 51-31 is the final. Kansas City will stay right where they are in Kansas City, and they will host the red-hot Tennessee Titans next weekend, Sunday at 3 o'clock. That is your first of 2 games next week in Conference Championship weekend. And if Patrick Mahomes looks anything like this, we better be worried. I want to also make notice that I don't know if it's going to be tomorrow or what day. Now, I want to also make notice of this. I'm going to preview the conference championship games, but I'm not going to predict my team's games anymore. I predicted, the first 2, but I feel like at this point we're really deep in the playoffs. I don't want to jinx anything. I don't want to say anything. So I'm just going to preview my 2 games. That doesn't mean I want to jinx the other side of it in a different conference, which I will predict those, but I'm not going to predict what's going to happen with my team. I'm just going to tell you what we can do to win the game. Final game of your weekend. At this point, the 49ers are waiting to see who is coming to San Francisco to get maybe that defensive smoke. Seattle, Green Bay. In Green Bay, the weather was cold as shit, and there was rumors that it was going to be a snow-like game. That was not the case. However, the Packers looked just like themselves, and Aaron Rodgers makes those throws that you just say, oh my God, too. The Packers got out to a lead early, and they maintained control for pretty much most of the first half in this game. When it was all said and done, though, Russell Wilson was 21 for 31 with 277 yards and a touchdown. He did also rush for 64 on the ground. Tyler Lockett was huge, like he's been for Seattle most of the season. 9 receptions, 136 yards, and a touchdown. But when it was all said and done, also, it was a good game for Aaron Rodgers, who had 243 yards with 2 touchdowns. Aaron Jones was not necessarily running for a crap ton of yards, but what he was doing, he was making an impact. He had 62 yards and 2 touchdowns, and the Green Bay Packers were able to utilize him in the red zone as well. But perhaps the top performer for the Green Bay Packers had to be Davante Adams, who's been great all year. 8 receptions, 160 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He did have 2 touchdowns, but when it was all said and done, Marshawn Lynch only really had 26 yards, but they were able to utilize him as well. The Seattle Seahawks are a team that is very strong at making comebacks, and it almost looked like for a minute that they had a chance to do so. They attempted a second half comeback. They scored twice in the third quarter, once in the fourth. This game was 28-23 Packers late. The Packers were able to hold them down, and the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers will ride high into Levi Stadium to take on the San Francisco 49ers. The Green Bay Packers beat the Seattle Seahawks, send them packing, no pun intended, and they advanced to the NFC Championship game 28-23. Ladies and gentlemen, this was your divisional round review. Conference championship week is upon us. I'm very nervous. I'm very excited. Regardless of what happens, there are two very, very good games that everybody should enjoy, whether you're a fan of the Packers, which I know a good friend of, a fan of the 49ers, another good friend I know, Titans, we're all pulling. We're hoping that this could be a miracle, and we're going to have to find a way. And if you are a fan of the Kansas City Chiefs. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. We got the conference championship previews and some predictions perhaps coming on tomorrow. Appreciate all of it. If you could leave a like, you could comment, tell me what you think, tell me where I'm wrong. This is not necessarily preview and prediction, but if there's anything that needs to be adjusted in the review, could you please notify me of that? Subscribe as well, so crucial. It puts the video out there. I promoted over the past weekend. We got a couple subscribers and views on board. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. Have a good day.